Hi, I have prepared a oral exam in which I use about 7 to 10 minutes to present and analyze the chapter 23 of Fight Club. First of all, I will connect the text to the theme of the unreliable narrator and connect it to the characteristic which you have told us about in one of our classes. Yes. First of all, an unreliable narrator holds a distorted view of the events, which leads to an inaccurate telling of the story, but it gives also the reader a chance to offer their own interpretation of the text. Yes. And second of all, an unreliable narrator is a character whose telling of the story is not completely accurate or credible due to problems with the character's mental state or maturity. And it is clear that the narrator's mental state is not healthy in the text due to the fact that he says that he has a split personality and nobody understands it except himself. Just have to find the quote. Um, Here. I didn't kill anybody, I say. I'm not Tyler Durden. He's the other side of my split personality, I say. Has nobody ever seen the movie Cyborg? Yeah. Second of all is an unreliable narrator, almost by definition a first-person narrator, which is also the case in Fight Club. Um, but then some literary critics argue that there's no such thing as a reliable first-person narrator, since every character is affected by his or her past experiences in the telling of the story. And this is also the case in Fight Club, chapter 23. Because the reader becomes aware that Tyler Durden only exists in the narrator's mental imagination. Second of then there's incomplete explanation of events when you have an unreliable narrator, and this is in the case because he's talking about the lever, and what is the lever that he's talking about, and what does it resolve in if he decides to pull it. It's a question like this that the reader keeps asking because there's so many unanswered questions in chapter 23. There's also illogical information because the narrator keeps talking about Tyler Durden and keeps pushing away the reality that Tyler is a part of himself. And it seems weird that he talks about himself in the second person. There's also the narrator's sanity is also questionable because it just not seem healthy, because he talks about these space animals at the beginning of the chapter when he says up here in the miles of night between the stars and the earth, I feel just like one of those space animals, dogs, monkeys, and then there's this one man also, which is kind of weird. He also keeps saying at the end, I think, things like step over the edge, jump over the edge, and so forth, which also leads the reader to the fact that he might end killing himself due to his mental state. There's also gaps in memory or in the time span of the story, where we jumps from we jump from sorry, I know in the book it's in the middle of the chapter, we jump in time, yeah. And that causes the reader to ask questions about all the unsolved things going on in between the time. And the narrative lies also to characters because, or the reader, because the narrator keeps lying to himself and act like the bad side of him is Tyler Durden, and every time he does something bad he just blames it on Tyler. This way he takes the easy route, so to say, because he keeps blaming Tyler for the things that he wouldn't admit to himself that he has done. And there's a quote that can be used to describe this. Here. If she means my boss, I say, yeah. I know, the police know, everyone's looking for me to lethally inject me already, but it was Tyler who killed my boss. Tyler and I just happen to have the same fingerprints, but no one understands. Yeah. And then I'm supposed to connect the text to the literary genre that it represents, which is postmodernism. And Fight Club is a postmodern text, and postmodernism relies heavily on fragmentation, where the reader tries to make sense of the fragments to understand the whole story, which I've also told you about before, because the unreliable narrator gives an inaccurate telling of the story. This. And already on the second page of the chapter it is clear that the text is very fragmented, and especially when the narrator says something like, "There's nothing left. I'm overdrawn at the bank. Step over the edge. The police tape flutters between me and oblivion. Step over the edge. What else is there? Step over the edge. There's Molly. Jump over the edge. There's Molly. And she's in the middle of everything and doesn't know it." That's very fragmented. And there's also a paradox, and it's a paradox that the narrator describes himself both as who he in reality is, and as a split personality Tyler Durden that represents his masculine and harsh side. And postmodernism is also there's often questionable narrators in postmodern texts, and in this case the narrator is definitely questionable, as I have mentioned earlier, which is also a characteristic of the postmodern literature. And the narrator uses also a bit of irony, but not as much as in the other chapters, but he uses it when he says, when he talks about the lethal injection and his death sentence. This will feel just like a bee sting. Yeah, maybe it will feel like a bee sting, but it's not like a bee sting if he's going to die, you know. Yeah, and then he uses repetition when he's talking about Mahler. If I can find the quote. Yeah, here it is. It's Saturday night. Bowel cans a night in the basement of First Methodist, and Molly's there when you arrive. Molly Singer smoking her cigarette. Molly Singer rolling her eyes. Molly Singer with a black eye. He just keeps mentioning Molly Singer because he wants us to notice that Molly Singer is very central to the development of the narrator's mental state or personality, so to say. That was all, I think. Bye bye.